Welcome back to my channel, guys. It's Danny here from our humble home, and today I'm going to be making over this little, it's a footstool, I guess you could call it. It's my daughter's and she's had it there for a while, and I said to her I will make it over. So I'll be doing that, but I will be using Kmart gold chalk paint, and I've been looking at it for a while and I thought I would like to try it out. I thought it would be perfect on this because this is a vintagey little piece, and I thought it would be cute to do it in the gold chalk paint. Not knowing really what it would be like, I sort of had my doubts because I have used other Kmart paints before. I've used this white chalk paint on this little table I upcycled. I did like a Hampton style thing, and that chalk paint took about 5 or more coats to cover, and still it's a little bit patchy if you look close. This pink chalk paint, actually, that was probably the best because that covered quite well considering it was a dark base. I can't remember how many coats I put on, but I don't recall it taking too many. It was one of my favorite little pieces. It turned out really well. I also used the white mineral paint, and opening it up, it was so nice and thick. But honestly, when I put it on even over a primer, and after I'd done the second coat, I was really disappointed with it, and I actually gave up on it. I thought I'm not wasting any more time, so I sort of went back to my Aldi paint and finished this project off. So, you know, I have used the Kmart paints before. I'm not all that impressed, really. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. And I did look up some reviews too. People saying it is very thin. This girl said it was a nice color, which I do agree with. It is a nice color. Yeah, not very good reviews actually, saying that they had to put a lot of coats on and that sort of thing. So yeah, I wasn't too sure, but I did want to try it. And you know, with these things, you sort of got to try them out for yourself, I think, and make your own judgment on them. So I finished scuff banding this, and I'm just going to tighten up the legs. They're a little bit loose, and I'm going to do that with a Allen key. Cleaning it off is important, and that's just before I start painting. So I just wipe over all the dust that is on there from the sanding, and I always use sugar soap to cut through all the grease and grime, and I gave it a good clean with that, and then I always rinse it off just with some water, and then I will dry it off, and I normally leave it a little while to dry to make sure it's completely dry. I don't know why I didn't take these off before I cleaned it originally. I think I was a bit lazy. I thought I would paint over it, but yeah, I took that off. So now it's time to paint, and it looks nice on the tin. It looks like a nice gold sort of color, and looking at what it can cover, so glass, metal, ceramics, and wood. You know, I'm showing you these instructions, but I actually didn't read them before I started, and it says for best results, prime bare metal and timber with an appropriate primer. So with the other chalk paints, the white and the pink, it actually says you don't have to sand and you don't have to prime. So I sort of assumed it would be the same with this, but it wasn't. And I could have done with priming this, as it turned out, but when I opened the tin, I was impressed actually. I thought it was a really nice sort of, I know it's wet there, but it's a really nice metallic-y sort of color. It actually reminded me of if you've ever made honeycomb, and after you've added the bicarb soda, it all puffs up. And that's what it looks like. So I thought that looked quite pretty actually. It is a semi-gloss and it's water-based, so it does dry a little bit shiny with the sheen on, which sort of does make sense because it is meant to be a gold. So this is a first coat, and the first coat of anything is always very thin and it doesn't look the best afterwards. So I just thought I would do the first coat and see what that looked like after that.
Anywhere you go, you belong. Anywhere you say, anywhere.
To be honest, when it dried it actually looked even less like I had painted it. The coverage seemed to disappear almost and become transparent. So that was the first coat. And that was after the second coat. Still very patchy there, and you can still see a lot of brush strokes and just looks really uneven. So by the third coat of anything really, with or without primer, you should be able to see it coming together and covering really well, if not completely. This was improving a little bit, but I think the problem was every time I did a coat, every time I brushed it on, the brush just seemed to wipe the paint off, and it was just leaving patches and brush marks, and yeah, I wasn't impressed at all. And at this point I was starting to worry because you could even see through the paint where I'd sanded and the original finish had come off. So by the time I got to the fourth coat, I didn't even bother showing you guys me painting it because there was not much point. It didn't look much different after I'd finished it. It was still really streaky and patchy. You could still see the brown underneath. My daughter came out and said, "Mum, it's okay, I don't mind it streaky." And I thought, streaky's one thing, crappy's another. And I know what she meant. It sort of would have given it more of a vintagey look. I don't know. At one point, actually, I even tried to distress it and sand it so it looked distressed. That didn't work because the paint was too thick. So by the fifth coat, I knew I had to try something else. And what I did was, out of desperation, I made my own chalk paint. I actually put a little bit in a container and I added my talcum powder, and that's how I make my own chalk paint, and that always comes up nice and thick. Such great coverage. I use 2 parts paint to 1 part talcum powder, and I mix that in. It sands so nice and smoothly too, but you know, at this point I was thinking I need to do something drastic to make this paint a bit thicker with better coverage. I still wasn't happy though with how it was going on. as I brushed it on, it would sort of brush it off again. I just wasn't happy with the coat, and I was sort of really disappointed, and I thought, this is just taking way too much time. This is just a small piece too. If it was a bigger piece, it would be really, really annoying. So that is actually what it looked like after I'd done the 5th coat, and that was with the chalk paint as well, the thicker chalk paint. So at this point I thought I might have to try something completely different. So for the 6th coat, I thought I would actually dab the gold paint on with a sponge. Now this is not the chalk paint I made, this is back to the Kmart chalk paint. So I thought if I dab it on with a sponge, then I'm not going to be pulling or making any streaks, and it should cover up all those spots that are sort of showing through. And as I was doing it, I thought, well, this could be the answer, because this actually does seem to be covering it up. The only thing was the texture, that sort of speckledy, mottledy texture, but actually I didn't mind it because it looked a bit like the gold gilding, yeah, the foil sort of look, and I thought that would be nice because it's meant to look like a little antique piece. So yeah, and anyway, by this point I didn't care, I just wanted to get a full coat on, and so I kept doing that, and this is the 6th coat. That's what it looked like after the 6th coat, and where I'd done the speckledy application with the sponge. And as you can see, the texture is quite rough, but I don't think it looks too bad actually. You might disagree with me, but I just had to salvage the project at this point. So this is the 7th coat, and this is actually the last coat. I'm doing another coat with the sponge, just dabbing it on, and I'm really loading up the sponge to give a nice thick coverage, because I don't want to do any more. I'm not spending any more time on this, and this will have to be the last coat, so I want it to be complete coverage. And yeah, I'm just putting a heap of paint on and going over it like that. And yeah, I'm thinking that at this point it may be okay. And that was the final coat. I'm happy with that. I always put new little rubber bases on the feet of my upcycles. It gives, well, it just looks better, and it also makes them very sturdy. Now it's time to cover the top of the footstool, and if you saw last week's video you would have seen me do this. I didn't go into any detail about the base, but I used a rug that I bought from the reject shop. It was only $15, and I made so many things from it, and it's the softest rug, and it was so pretty, and I thought I would cover the top with it. And it was very easy to do, very easy to work with this stuff, although it does make a big mess. There's fluff everywhere. There's fluff in the house everywhere and on everyone and everything, all our clothes, but it's good. It doesn't fray as such, and it's easy just to staple on, and it's really soft and pliable, and it looks so pretty. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because the fluffiness sort of covers up, you know, any issues or any creases and that sort of thing. And so I covered that, and then I just put the hinges back on, and I attached it to the base. I didn't do much inside the piece. I didn't want to put another 5 coats on, so sometime in the future I might actually cover that with fabric. I put a little vintagey decal on the front to make it look cute, and that was pretty much it. This is what we started with, and this is what we finished with. I hope you enjoyed the video. There are a few things I would change when using this paint next time. I think I would use it for more crafty things, for stencils. If I wanted a smooth look, I think I would try to spray paint, and I would also use primer. But all in all, this turned out okay. I like the look of the gold. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in next week's video. Bye for now.